WTBQ. Ain't I got you on the back foot, and you know I got you really good.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Katie Pavulik, and you're listening to Leading Ladies, a women's talk show that features relatable, intelligent, compassionate, powerful, productive women of the 21st century. And I'd like to welcome our first guest today, Kelli O'Brien. Thanks for coming in today, Kelli.
Good morning, Katie. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So we were just sitting in the waiting room talking a little bit about career paths and liking what you do. And so on that note, I just want to ask you if you could tell the audience a little bit about what you do currently and what your job entails.
I'm an attorney. I practice here in Orange County. I'm a solo practitioner. And with that comes the responsibilities of running a law office as well as doing all of the legal work. Oftentimes people think the practice of law is incredibly glamorous as well as incredibly lucrative, and that's not always the case. There's a lot of work that goes into that behind the scenes. Right,
of course. And again, that's something we had just been talking about, but you're definitely fantastic at juggling both of them. So I'm curious, is law something that you always knew you wanted to go into?
I think growing up, my family would say that I was very verbal and vocal. And I had lots of relatives throughout my childhood saying that I needed to go to law school because they really couldn't see me doing well at anything else, perhaps. So I think that's sort of how it happened. And then, of course, I went to college and had a major in criminal justice and a major in political science and a double minor in criminal justice and Spanish. So it was basically either law school or be a translator in a jail.
Okay.
Those are my options.
Okay, got it. Right. So, and you said, you had a lot of support growing up with this.
Yeah. Well, I'm the first, of the 5 children in my family, we all have college degrees, but neither of my parents went to college and certainly didn't go to professional school. So it was an aspiration and it was something that was on the to-do list. And, at some point in time, I decided it's what I was going to do.
Right. Fantastic. So, did you feel like it might have been a difficult task for you as a woman, or was that something that kind of played in your mind when you were growing up?
I'm not sure as a kid we ever think about the discrimination you may face as you grow up. I don't know that young women making career choices have in the forefront of their mind that regardless of what career path they take, they're going to run into discrimination. And as a white woman, I probably don't run into nearly the same amount of discrimination as a gay woman of color, for example, may run into because of all of the isms in our society and all of the things that you end up dealing with. I haven't personally faced a whole lot more than the foolishness of the older white male lawyer who makes a bad comment. People who look at your cleavage because they're not listening to the words coming out of your mouth.
Right, but
more than that, I don't know that or at least I haven't paid attention to overt sexism in the practice of law.
Which is a good thing. But of course, even those little things, they come into play when it comes to stereotypes and expectations. So, and you say you do run into them, so those are things that you see in your field, or
I think certainly
a little bit
in much of my practice. When I started out, I was working at an Orange County nonprofit, and had the opportunity to work under a grant assisting victims of domestic violence. And when I left that nonprofit and opened up my own practice, I focused, and still do, my practice on assisting victims of domestic violence in every aspect of the legal field, which is a pretty intertwined scenario. You can often have a victim of domestic violence who has a family offense proceeding going on in family court, has a child support proceeding going on, maybe facing foreclosure with their home, may be the victim in local criminal proceedings in local justice courts, and can really have 8 balls in the air at one point in time.
Right.
And certainly there are lots of stereotypes and isms that apply to victims of domestic violence.
Of course.
A woman who is a professional who has been assaulted is often asked, how did she let that happen to her? When certainly just because you're a professional woman doesn't mean that your situation is really any different when it comes to domestic violence and the factors that allow domestic violence to persist in our communities.
Right. Okay. So that's something that you see specifically in that area.
I think there are certain presumptions. And interestingly, in Orange County, as we sit here today, all of the members of the judiciary, both in family court and Supreme Court, are all women. And it's interesting that sometimes those incidents of sexism persist, even when the person in the front of the room wearing the robe is a woman.
Right.
I truly believe that that's a function of socialization. Much of the sexism that we experience in personal lives and professional lives is a result of how we socialize our youth and how it becomes ingrained in how they think.
Absolutely. And that's something that we've continued to talk about and address on my show, and people have been talking about in the past, is, how do we fix this problem? And I think you're absolutely right. And, me being 18 and being exposed and fresh in college now to all the different social scenes of younger life, it's so clear to me and to young people, how the mindsets and the stereotypes are being developed. So I think you absolutely have a point there. And you were saying before that a lot of the people in these positions are women. So how important is it for women to be holding these sorts of positions, and to be lawyers and to be judges and to be in the courtroom? And
if 50% of our world is females, well, then surely 50% of all of these positions ought to be held by females, because that keeps the balance. Women think differently than men, and part of that is the socialization process. I think that women in general, in my experience, attack problems differently. There's often collaboration and the desire to finish the task and get the problem solved versus be engaged in the fight from the beginning to the end, at least in the legal profession. Women tend to be much more goal-oriented as opposed to process-oriented.
Okay.
And sometimes that, particularly in the matrimonial field, when the regular family ends up in the courthouse having to deal with their family separating, first of all, the process is so ridiculously expensive. And it's not because lawyers are making a lot of money. It's just because it takes a lot of time to get through these things. But those families aren't looking for a fight. They're looking for a solution. And unfortunately, to some extent, the legal system that we have is designed to force a fight as opposed to a resolution much of the time.
Right.
And maybe that works great in a murder trial, and maybe that's spectacular in a personal injury case because it's a moment in time. Unfortunately, in matrimonial actions as well, most specifically when you have kids involved, it's a timeline, it's a process, and it's changeable. And the way our court system is structured, it's very difficult to address it quickly and effectively. So when you hear about families going through this process and how hard it is, there's a lot of truth to that.
Right. And why do you think it is that way, that, women might look at it goal-wise and men might look at it, from a process type of standpoint?
I think it goes back to the socialization. I think it goes back to how, and obviously everybody's raised differently in different households.
Of course.
But you don't have to spend all that much time, watching, whether it's television or movies or media of any kind, to see that those stereotypes are perpetuated, and kids see it all day, every day. So you carry that forward into your adult life, and it's hard to check those things.
Right.
It's hard to check yourself regularly to make sure you're not subscribing to some of those isms that we all ought to shake off.
Definitely. So, you said you did a lot of work with matrimonial law, and now I'm curious, not even just, with the professionals in the courtroom, but maybe with, some of the clients. Is there any time that you might see, some discrimination or sexism, within that setting? Are there any times that, women might be disadvantaged in
Well, I think historically women have always been disadvantaged in the court system in the context of matrimonial actions, because historically they are the non-moneyed spouse. They are coming into a process where they don't have resources. That's changed a lot. And even in the, dare I say, 20 years that I've been doing this, as I cringe as I say that, it used to be that the majority of families had a stay-at-home parent, or most of the time a mom that worked even part-time. And at the end of the day, that has changed significantly in a whole variety of ways.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's something that you said you're seeing.
I have recent cases where women are faced with paying spousal support for their male spouses because the world has changed and she's making significantly more than him.
Right.
And if we're going to eliminate sexism in these processes, that's how it has to work.
Well, do you think that says something about, the way our culture is evolving?
I'm not so sure that the intellectual evolution has kept pace with the financial evolution. The reality is to live in Orange County, you need to have two incomes to live comfortably here. So you have two-parent households where both people are working, but I'm not so sure that there's the same, while there might be financial equality, I'm not so sure that the actual equality that should go with that is there yet.
Right, and I think that's the point of this show and what we're doing right now. I think you have an excellent point there. Thank you. After a small commercial break, we will be right back. We're here with Kelli O'Brien talking about the work she does for our community. I'm Katie Krahulik, and you're listening to Leading Ladies right here on WTBQ Radio.
All right now.
Braemar at Wallkill knows how challenging it could be to find the right residence for a loved one who needs memory care. Braemar has created a safe and positive environment for its residents with the best in memory care services. Braemar's staff is trained to bring joy and sense of family to each resident by staying focused on what they can do, never what they cannot do. Braemar offers consistent commitment to quality care and service. For more information, call 845-695-5600 or visit braemarliving.com.
Dawson Motors, Warwick's largest and oldest independent automotive facility, has been family-owned and operated for over 33 years. Their service department can professionally repair any model of car, van, or truck with certified service technicians and the latest computer diagnostic equipment. They offer tire, wheel, and battery sales, four-wheel alignments, New York State inspections, Saturday service appointments, a free customer shuttle, and also accept all major credit cards. The Dawson Motors sales department is equally impressive. All pre-owned vehicles are hand-selected by the Dawson family and thoroughly checked over and serviced. They take trade-ins, provide easy financing, and offer extended warranties on all qualified pre-owned vehicles. The car buying experience at Dawson's is truly stress-free, relaxed, and enjoyable. Call Dawson Motors today at 845-986-8558 or visit them at 45 Oakland Avenue in Warwick or online at dawsonmotors.com.
Hi, I'm Steve Bellner, professional real estate photographer. With over 90% of home buyers searching the internet for properties, professional photos are essential for a successful online marketing campaign. In fact, houses listed with professional photos sell quicker and for more money. Please call me at 845-244-1660 or visit my website, qualityrealestatephotography.com. Sold is just a click away.
Escape to Paris this summer with Out of the Mouths of Babes, a new comedy by iconic playwright Israel Horovitz. 4 women arrive in Paris for the funeral of a 100-year-old man who loved each of them, at times simultaneously. For 24 hours, they share his apartment, delicious secrets, and a dead cat. Starring Oscar winner and 5-time Tony nominee Estelle Parsons, 2-time Tony winner Judith Ivey, along with Angelina Fiordalisi and Francesca Choi Key. Now playing through July 17th at the Cherry Lane Theater. For tickets and information, visit cherrylanetheater.org.
Hi, this is Mary Ulrich with Cornell Cooperative Extension in Orange County, inviting you to join me and your Orange County farmers on Farm Talk every Wednesday at 12 noon, where you will learn everything agriculture on WTBQ, radio worth listening to.
WTBQ. Ain't I got you on the back foot? And you know I got you really good.
Hello and welcome back. This is Katie Krahulik hosting Leading Ladies here at WTBQ Radio. Right now, Kelli O'Brien is in the station with me, and we were just talking about her work. In her field, she is a practicing lawyer.
Matrimonial lawyer mostly.
Yes, and so we were talking about, the things she's seeing in her line of work. As she does do work with matrimonial law. And something that I was just curious about is, especially today, you run into cases where maybe less than 50 years ago, but cases where someone might end up getting a divorce, right? And you have a man and a woman, and the woman is relying on his income or his paycheck. And now she finds herself in a situation where she hasn't been supporting herself. And what does she do? I'm sure, is that something that you...
There's certainly lots of financial dependence in relationships. I think that there's nothing wrong with talking to kids early on and making sure when we parent our kids that we talk to them about being independent. One of the things that we say even about domestic violence, is that while those dynamics may be there, once there's financial dependence, somehow, the nails get put in the proverbial coffin. And once a woman is financially dependent upon her abuser, it becomes very difficult for her to extricate from that situation, because the finances and all of the other social norms that keep her from leaving that relationship end up forcing her to stay.
Right.
But if nothing else, when we raise our kids, whether they're male or female, because there certainly are many, many more situations where we have stay-at-home dads these days.
For sure.
Dads who work at home, who end up being primary caretakers, even if they are working, than maybe there used to be decades ago.
Right.
But self-sufficiency and independence, while being in a relationship, those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Right.
But go a long way.
For sure. For sure. We actually have a caller. So we're going to put them on the line. Hello, caller. Can you just give us your name and tell us where you're from?
Good morning, Katie. Good morning, Kelli O'Brien. This is Michelle McKeown. Hello and good morning.
Hello, Michelle. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning,
Not
Michelle.
Good morning. Kelli, first, welcome to the Leading Ladies Club, and I congratulate you on your restraint this morning, so well done there. And in regard to domestic violence, just for those who don't know, Kelli is probably one of the premier attorneys for victims of domestic violence in the county. So one of the things we talk about is the continuous victim blaming. So in your view, how do we shift that paradigm around the appropriate question rather than the why does she stay question?
Language can be so important, as we have debated over and over again over the years. And asking the right questions and framing the situation with the correct words goes a really long way in back to that socialization. When people hear it said the right way as opposed to the wrong way, instead of asking, why hasn't she left? The correct question is, what is society doing wrong that prevents her from leaving? What have we not done to support her choice to leave? And if when that discussion is being had, young people are hearing the correct questions, they then frame their analysis and their inquiry and their opinions about a situation the correct way.
Absolutely.
Agreed. And though we still have cases like Brock Turner and the judiciary in that case who felt that the punishment of the perpetrator was much more important than the experience of the victim. So until we shift that paradigm as well, we're going to continue to have these conversations. And I applaud you, Katie, for taking the lead to have them, and certainly including somebody like Kelli O'Brien in the conversation.
I'm not so sure we can talk about Brock Turner without saying as a legal professional, what a horrible situation that is, and how the legal system, the criminal justice system, and all of the spokes on the wheel splintered apart horribly and failed to provide justice in that situation. Whether it's the socialization of that young man to believe that he is entitled to take what he wants under any circumstances from a young woman, whether it's his father who in his quote gives his swim times and his favorite foods to justify his behavior somehow, or it's the judge who, and I don't know this judge, and I don't know this judge's track record, but I wonder if that judge gave such flimsy, can I use the word flimsy would be a good word, flimsy sentences to either men of color in his experience on the bench, or even women. When we look at the statistics on when women are charged with crimes and how much harsher they are treated and sentenced for crimes that seemingly are not nearly as violent or as bad, for lack of a better word, as some of what men commit.
Right, absolutely. Michelle, thank you so much for calling in. Michelle was actually a former guest on my show. And just touching on that note, what I want to talk to you too about is, of course, there's a lot of things going wrong in this case, and that's obvious to a lot of people. But what I think is good about this case is that it is national news. I mean, this is happening completely on the other side of our country, and we're hearing about it on the East Coast. And so
that is no consolation prize to her.
Right, of course.
Or the thousands of women that are in the same place she is, because our society continues to blame victims as part of this, whether we call it a rape culture, whether we call it poor socialization, whether we call it institutional sexism. It can have a whole lot of names.
Of course.
And as much as it's getting national attention, the woman sitting in the emergency room having the rape kit done, none of this matters to her.
Right. That's
And
definitely
I
true.
think on top of that, I had this very extensive conversation, via 140 characters on Twitter this week, trying to help two men understand that risk reduction is not the same as rape prevention. So their mindset was, well, if she didn't drink so much and had taken personal responsibility, this wouldn't have happened. And trying to help them understand that risk prevention is a really important conversation to have with both men and women, especially college age. Teaching boys about healthy relationships and consent and the difference between cooperation and consent and how not to rape. That is not a conversation we have all of that often. And I think until we get past, yes, everybody should have risk reduction conversations and really look at socialization and gender roles and myths and misperceptions and responsibility. And by the way, what is a crime? Rape. What is not a crime? Drinking and getting drunk.
Of course.
So I think having that conversation is really important and one much less comfortable to have than risk reduction conversation.
Absolutely. I think you're completely right, and that's the real root of the problem right now. What everyone's talking about is why is the blame on the victim? I mean, that's just absolutely absurd, but definitely some problems there. Thank you so much for calling in, Michelle.
No problem, guys. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Definitely, and she brings up an excellent point, and it is kind of ridiculous, the lack of blame, right, that the assaulter is actually getting, right? Why is the conversation always about the victim? You know what I mean? So
We're not going to answer that question today.
right. I don't. It's a whole other issue, but definitely. So, and you do have two kids yourself, and when talking about the socialization of young people.
People ask me all the time, am I worried about how my daughter may turn out?
Right.
No, I'm not, because she's, as much as she hates it when I say this, she's very much like her mother. I think she'll be just fine.
Oh,
the
definitely.
real challenge is raising a son who doesn't buy into the social norms, who isn't susceptible to the socialization. Raising decent men is our job. And it's far, far more challenging with all of the exposure that they have to the negative media, to the negative socialization, that is so contrary to what we want our sons to be and to feel and to think innately.
Okay. And is that something that you think might be, more general, that people, that other people are having a problem with as well?
I'm not so sure that when we're parenting that we actually have a game plan. I know I didn't. It's sort of, it's a problem solving as it comes up. And, many times you're so caught up in day-to-day activities and getting them to their 27 different activities in 3 different towns that you lose sight of some of the really important stuff. So figuring out, how to work that in and make sure you use all of those teaching moments that you have. I hope I've done an okay job. So far, they seem to be on a pretty good track, and I don't have a lot of concerns for either one of them.
Good. That's a great thing. And, you were saying that you're running them all over the place and they're super involved. And that's another point I'd like to touch on is this idea of being a super mom. You're fully employed and you have 2 kids and you're very involved in their lives. And can you talk a little bit about, you guys do work with 4-H?
Yeah, I would say that our family is a 4-H family. If you don't know what 4-H is, 4-H is a program run through Cornell Cooperative Extension of Orange County. It's a nationwide youth development program. Orange County 4-H, I believe, is the largest in the state. And it's essentially informal learning in a family-run, family-based environment. And you get the guidance of the Cornell Cooperative Extension educators and the 4-H staff there. My kids are very involved in the horse program. We have a whole menagerie of pets, including a variety of horses. My kids are, I think we would call them equestrians. And we're very involved in that horse program. Currently, we do a couple of things that are, community-based. The kids have been running a fundraiser for a couple of years now where we collect 5-cent deposit bottles and cans. They've got drop locations around the county. If I can give them a shameless plug, on Route 284 in Westtown, and also on at my office at 84 6.5 Station Road in Goshen, as well as in Pine Bush at Horse and Rider and at Agway, where we ask people to drop off their rinse 5-cent deposit bottles. And the kids have been using those funds to support the 4-H program and the horse program, which obviously costs a little bit of money to actually make these things function.
Right.
And one of the things that the kids have been doing, along with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Orange County, is building the new Education Center and 4-H Park up in Mount Hope. It's a beautiful 53-acre, at this time, park where there will be a full equestrian facility, as well as barns and other structures for a real country fair to return to Orange County, hopefully in the near future. The kids will be having their annual showcase, which is open to the public from July 18th to the 23rd up at the new park, which is at 300 Finchville Turnpike in Mount Hope.
That's fantastic. And we're not telling the audience what to do, but we're suggesting that you are good people. That's all we're suggesting. So I'd like to thank you, Kelli, for coming in to speak with me today. You do very commendable work. Congrats on all your success. And I wish you all the best in the future. Don't go anywhere, because coming in after this short break is Tina Buck, a woman with an impressive story about her climb to the top in the banking business. This has been Katie Krahulik, and you're listening to Leading Ladies right here on WTBQ Radio.
This is your wallet talking, and I think we both need to get away. And if we fly Allegiant, we can totally afford it.
Listen to your wallet and visit Allegiant.com. Book a flight nonstop from Stewart International Airport to sunny Tampa, St. Pete, Florida, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Save even more when you book flights, rental cars, hotels, and attractions. At Allegiant.com, prices are so low, you just have to go.
The Epic Times, your #1 go-to Orange County newspaper for local and national news, reporting on all the happenings in your part of the county. And this is what one of their readers had to say.
I have really enjoyed this issue that I've read. It's wonderful that someone finally put this out there. My compliments, folks. Please send me a real newspaper.
To take advantage of the 5 free weeks of the Epic Times, visit epicorange.com or call 845-200-3101.
When my construction company has a tight deadline, I need a contract bond fast. That's why I work with Selective. With their Contractor Express program, I can pre-qualify for bonds for many of my smaller jobs in just a few minutes.
Selective. Response is everything. For quick and easy bond solutions, visit selective.com.
Small contract bonds and no hassle. That works for me.
This is Garrett Derlin from Sealy & Derlin Insurance. For quick and affordable contract bond needs, contact us at 845-986-1177.
Insuring your business is serious stuff. You don't need gimmicks or cutesy mascots or punchlines. You certainly don't want red tape. You just want the right coverage at the right price. We're as serious about insuring your business as you are about running it. Selective. Response is everything.
This is Garrett Derlin from Sealy & Derlin Insurance. To create your custom business insurance solution, contact us at 845-986-1177.
Go Solar Maximum and save thousands on your electric bills with their zero-down lease or purchase plans. Because one size does not fit all. Solar Maximum provides high-quality products, service with integrity, and high-performing, cost-efficient, environmentally responsible solutions while addressing all your energy needs. Solar Maximum will be there to assist you before, during, and after installation. To schedule your free home energy analysis or service, call Solar Maximum at 845-358-0800.
Hi, it's Tom Fursey. Join me for the music and memories of the 1980s on The Magic of the 80s, Saturday afternoons at 2 on WTBQ and WTBQ.com.
Magic of the 80s. WTBQ. Ain't I got you on the back foot? And you know I got you really good.
We are back. Hello and welcome to those who just tuned in. I'm Katie Krahulik, and you're listening to Leading Ladies, a women's talk show that features relatable, intelligent, compassionate, powerful, productive women of the 21st century. Our second guest today is Miss Tina Buck. She is here with us in the studio, and I just want to thank you for coming in today, Tina.
Hi, Katie. Thanks very much for having me.
No problem. My pleasure. So we're just going to start off with the basics. Can you just talk a little bit about what you're doing currently?
Sure. I am the branch manager of Key Bank on Maple Ave in Warwick. I've been in the branch about 5 years. I manage that business. Basically, I have the authority to run it as my own business. I have 5 people that are on my team that I'm responsible to make sure they have the tools they need to do the job. But my primary concern there is to make sure that the clients that come in have the best product suited to them and that they have financial wellness.
Right, absolutely. So why did you decide to go into banking?
Well, initially I went into banking as I was in college because it was a social opportunity. I was strong in math, and the hours were flexible around the college schedule.
Right.
When I went back to it later in life, after my children were grown and in school, it became more of being involved in the community, getting to know people, and being able to help them through certain times of their lives financially.
Right, of course, absolutely. We actually have a caller on the line right now, so we're going to bring them in. Hello, caller. Can you tell us your name and where you're from?
JD from Warwick. Don't say actually, because it's a good show. And I had a question for you, matrimonial question. My wife, her brother is getting divorced, and they have a pet that everybody loves, and they figure his spouse will get the pet. What about pet visiting rights, or who gets animals? It sounds crazy, but they're actually concerned.
So, unfortunately, I do not have the expertise to give you this. My last guest was the person that might have been able to answer that question, but we have 2 different guests each show, and so now I have Tina Buck on here with me. So I wish I could help you out with that answer, but I really.
I guess in this day and age, though, Katie, that would be a legitimate question for a lot of people, right?
I guess so.
The pets. So anyway, all right. So let's see. Maybe we'll catch her again on another show.
Yeah, maybe. Sorry about that.
Take care.
You too.
Keep it up.
Anyway, that's okay. He probably got a little bit confused. So we're back to Tina here. And so you were talking about, what got you initially interested in banking. And of course, community is a big part of your life and of your career. But you really worked your way right up to the top. And I kind of want to talk about, your climb, because it was quite a bit of grassroots work for you. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about, that progression to success?
Sure. Well, I started my professional career really after my college years in manufacturing, specifically security printing. So I worked there for 17 years and had the opportunity to go in at entry level. And over the course of that time, raised up to manager, to managing multiple departments, to being on an executive committee. So they were all different facets, and along the way I gained a lot of experience, a lot of communication skills, all of which stayed with me, and I brought with me to my second career, which was banking.
Right.
As far as the drive and commitment, I'd have to say that I have always had a strong desire to be successful. I've always applied 100% of myself to any job I had. There's no small jobs. Every one of them is, as long as you do it well, you have pride in it.
Right.
You can take pride in it.
Right, of course.
You have to be able to work through challenge and accept change because life is constantly changing.
For sure.
You learn from your mistakes and apply those lessons to future experiences. And you always have to expand out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And I think one thing, too, is I've been very fortunate to have good mentors along the way. When you do a good job, you get noticed.
Right.
And that's how you get promoted, by doing well and being noticed.
Right, it's those connections. Mm-hmm. And, going along all those lines, where did you sort of get that drive and ambition and that spark and that thirst for success from? You know what I mean? Is that just something you've always felt, pressure to do? Is there someone in your life when you were young maybe that motivated you? Where did that all kind of come from?
I think it came from growing up in a larger family, although I'm the oldest of 4 girls, not really large, but my extended family was large.
Okay.
When you're the oldest and the other kids start coming along, you try and set yourself aside from everybody else.
Right.
You want to stand out. So fortunately, I was always very good in school and was always recognized because of doing well.
Right.
You know, at home with parents, friends, school, teachers, and I gained a lot of confidence from doing well. So I think that it was instilled in me from that point in time.
Of course.
I knew that if I tried hard and did well, I would gain respect.
Exactly. And you know, a lot of people in the past have been talking about the concept of respect and that it's not just something that's just given, right? It's something that's earned. And so people talk about, you know, you can talk the talk, but you have to be able to walk the walk as well. It's all about being prepared, right?
Absolutely.
If you don't come in prepared, then to what do they owe you, right? It doesn't really add up. And of course, confidence is all important, and it's good to be confident, and that's what this show's about. You know you can do it, but do the job and do the job correctly. And that's something that, obviously, that's what you're talking about now, is something that you've kind of gained confidence off of that fact, correct?
Right. You also need to be organized, and you need to plan for things. And once you put a plan in place, whether it's in your career, or whether it's in your finances, no matter what it is, you put a plan in place, you figure out the steps that are involved to get to where you want to go, and you execute on it.
Right, of course. And going off that note, you know, being organized, something that's become clear to me is that you've done quite a bit of multitasking in your life. You went back to school and took night classes while managing 3 departments at Banknote Corporation, correct?
Yeah.
And then you went back to work after having kids, and you continued to progress in your field while still raising children. And now you're juggling your career as well as your involvement in Rotary and several community service type organizations. Including the Chamber of Commerce, correct? And so can you talk about, you know, that concept of wearing multiple hats and what it takes to be able, because it's not all clean cut, right? Down the road, you're going to have to, you know, split your focus into several different areas. So what does it take, and can you talk about your experience having to juggle all those different things?
Sure. Initially, when I started to establish myself in my first real career, which was in printing, I didn't have children. So I had the opportunity to spend a lot of hours and do the work to get myself started.
Right.
So long hours, it wasn't an issue. No one was suffering because I was spending a lot of time at work. And then over time, when it came time, I met my husband through work, and we got married. We were 30 years old when we got married, so I still didn't have children. I was already into my career 9 years, had already established myself.
Okay.
So taking classes at night to improve on my job skills, it really wasn't that challenging. I didn't have to go home and cook dinner, didn't have to help with homework or anything like that. But, you know, even later on in life, when there's something you need to do your job better, you find a way to do it.
Right.
You know, it goes back to organizing, planning, and following through on what you need to do.
Right, for sure.
The other thing with being able to multitask in a career is part of the responsibility of a manager is to coach and enable those that work around you to help. You have to know when to ask for help, and you have to have trust in the people that are working with you.
Right.
It's really, managing is really a coaching position. You help those to do the daily tasks, so you as a manager can really be more forward focused. Plan what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, how to improve efficiency and process, that kind of thing.
Right.
So once you have the guidelines in place and the support foundation to help, you can manage multiple departments. It's not really, I'm not going to say it doesn't have its challenges, because it does, because you work with a lot of different personalities.
Right.
But as long as you're organized and you have that foundation, you can get through it.
Right, absolutely. And that's something that I'm sure follows you throughout your life and career. So when you have kids, is that, again, that helps learning how to juggle, you know, that situation too, having a career and children.
So one thing with having a career and having children is, you know, there's always been that social stereotype that, you know, your place as a mother is home all the time. And that was great. I knew I always wanted to have kids. I had a great childhood, but I never really thought I had to pick one over the other. that being said, when it came time for the kids to go to school and I went back to the workforce, then I never felt comfortable with not being there when they got home from school.
Right.
Is it something that you ever really get over? I never really got over
Right.
it. And I always kind of felt bad about not being there at certain times. So, you know, you make up for it. I had a great lady that watched the girls after school. Her name is Cindy Hall. My husband was a fantastic father and supported me when I couldn't be there.
Right.
And we, as together, made the most of the family time that we had.
Of
You know, I
course.
cooked every night, helped with homework.
Right.
We went to all the football games that they cheered for. We were always there. And we
Right.
had family game night every Friday night.
Right.
So
That's wonderful.
you balance.
Right.
But I have to say that there was always in the back of my mind, well, maybe I shouldn't be here. I should be home.
Right. Well, those are some of the difficulties that come with the territory of being a super mom, and we'll get back to that after a short commercial break. We'll be returning shortly, so don't go anywhere. This is Katie Krahulik. I'm here with Tina Buck talking about being a woman in the world of finance. Stay tuned with Leading Ladies here on WTBQ Radio.
The Blarney Station, located at 10 Railroad Avenue in the historic downtown village of Warwick, features an authentic Irish menu as well as many American favorites. The food is always fresh and professionally prepared by the Blarney Station's experienced chefs. Add to this a casual bar where you can get your favorite refreshments and meet good friends. You have the perfect place to relax and dine. And here's the owner of the Blarney Station, John O'Connell, to tell you more.
Yes, the Blarney Station is open 7 days a week. Our phone number is 845-986-1509. That's 845-986-1509. Eat in or take out. You're sure to enjoy your meal. And don't forget that we have a children's menu too. The Blarney Station, directly across from the Railroad Green at 10 Railroad Avenue in Warwick.
WVT is your trusted communications provider with a triple play of services, including telephone with crystal clear voice and unlimited local and long-distance calling, and it even works when the power goes out. DirecTV with over 285 channels and DVR service in every room. Act now, because with new subscriptions, you get the 2016 NFL Sunday Ticket free. Add blazing fast internet service to complete the package. All this and local technical support too. For more information, visit WVT at WVTC.com.
Isn't it time you lowered your building's overhead? Orange and Rockland is here to help. We have solutions that include everything from free consultations to rebates and incentives. We'll even pay a significant portion of material and installation costs. So if you want your current energy costs to become a thing of the past, get in touch with O&R today and start saving tomorrow. To begin, call 1-877-852-5678 or visit oru.com/save. Orange and Rockland. Everything matters.
This is Dr. Calvin Hargis, and I'd like to invite you to the Albert Wisner Public Library Thursday, June 30th, where I'll be discussing many topics, including neurofeedback therapy and the mismanagement of chronic musculoskeletal pain and scoliosis. Did you know that most scoliotic curves are due to a short leg or an unlevel pelvis, and begin as simple curves to balance the torso on an unlevel base? Young spines are soft and can deform if abnormal pressures continue. Did you know that radiologists do not comment on leg length differences, or that most orthopedic doctors do not attempt to correct these imbalances with corrective lifts? Join me Thursday, June 30th at 6:30 p.m. at the Albert Wisner Public Library in Warwick for this most informative talk. If you have chronic pain, a child diagnosed with scoliosis, or want to know more about neurofeedback therapy for a brain-related condition like anxiety, depression, TBI, or ADHD, you will not want to miss this talk.
It's Busher. It's Elliott. They're 3 wide for third.
The NASCAR Xfinity Series is on the Motor Racing Network.
They're beating and they're banging inside the top 5, but off the corner, career win number 2 for Chris Busher.
The American Ethanol E15 250, presented by Enogen.
He wins at the Iowa Speedway.
Sunday at 1 p.m. on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Brought to you every week by Vogel & Moore Insurance and Dawson Motors.
WTBQ. Ain't I got you on the back foot? And you know I got you really good.
hello again. We have Tina Buck at the station speaking with us today to talk about her grassroots success in banking. I'm Katie Krahulik. You're listening to Leading Ladies on WTBQ Radio. So we were just talking about, Tina's role as a super mom, because she does have 2 kids and she is juggling a career and a family. And she was saying how that, that's still difficult. And of course it's difficult, but they try to make it work, not me. I'm not there yet. But I did want to, talk about that a little bit more, because not only do you have kids and a career, but you are quite involved in the community as well. And you do work with Rotary and with Warwick and Bloom in the Chamber of Commerce. So can you talk about, and of course it's not just Rotary, it's not just Warwick and Bloom, it's all of those. And again, how do you do it? How do you juggle it all?
At different stages, it has its own challenges.
Right.
Now the girls are a little older. The community involvement really happened when I had the opportunity to manage the branch in Warwick. I came to the Warwick branch in 2011. I came back to banking in 2004 when the girls started school.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed home for a few years before that. And then in 2010, I became a manager for the Key Bank in New Windsor. And like I said, moved to Warwick branch in 2012. So at that point in time, living in the same community that I worked in, I initially started Warwick and Bloom, went to Warwick and Bloom because I enjoyed flowers and I wanted to get to know people in the community.
Right, of course.
The time commitment wasn't that great, and I enjoyed adding charm to Warwick. Warwick's a great town, and I absolutely love it. The Chamber of Commerce came about because being new in the community and in the business area, I needed to make business contacts. I needed to get to know the environment and for businesses to know who I was personally as well. I agree with Michael Jandro. You sell yourself and then the business comes.
Right.
Then Rotary, I have to say, is probably one of the single most rewarding associations that I'm part of.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Why?
Absolutely.
Why is that the case?
So I've always liked to help people, and Rotary gave me the opportunity to put that into action.
Right. Rotary's great. It's a great organization.
So with Rotary, I get such a strong sense of satisfaction by helping people. And the people that are part of Rotary are really the most compassionate people I've ever met.
I believe
it's
it.
not a group, it's not a club, it really is a family.
Okay.
And once you get they call it the volunteer bug and see the impact that you can make on
Right.
people that are not as fortunate as you, number one, get a great sense of appreciation for what you have. Number two, it also gave me the opportunity to show my daughters it's good to give back.
Right.
So I was able to bring them in on a lot of volunteer opportunities. We were able to do it together, and I'm very proud to say that they kind of got the bug.
Right.
Both in Interact and
Right.
also volunteering through the school.
I went to school with Jess and Amanda Buck, and I was in an Interact Club with them, and I know that they step up to the plate when it comes to volunteering and community service. They're very involved, and they're role models of the school for sure, when it comes to that kind of thing. I've seen that firsthand. And just going back on the note of the reward that you get from this experience, I think it's interesting because we do have a lot of women who come in here and talk about the service that they do that they're not getting paid for. And it's so rewarding to you. And oftentimes I think that in voluntary work, you make a bigger difference, It's for some reason this work, you're really seeing the effects of what you're doing. And there's no other reward than just knowing that you're doing it, right? And it's just kind of ironic to me that that's where you're seeing the big differences, the big changes being made is this voluntary work.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that says something about the way that careers are going, but it's something that you're not getting paid for, and I just think it's something that I've noticed more often is people, they come in here and they rave about their work they're doing, that that's not their career, you know what I mean? And it's actually, you're seeing the impact directly,
absolutely,
right?
Definitely. And I can take that same impact with me in my career
Of
right
course.
now because I make an impact on people every day. And while banks get a really bad rap a lot of times in
Right.
today's day, the truth of the matter is when the right person's in the right position, they can really help a person
Right.
in that way.
Definitely.
And I'm glad to see that I can actually make an impact on an individual, both on the outside of my career as well as inside my career.
Definitely. rewarding from all ends, for sure. So going off of that note of the impact you are making in your career as a woman, I'm just curious, throughout the years, has being a woman had any sort of, impact on you being able to perform or being able to step up to the plate when it comes to what you are doing?
I've been very fortunate in the fact that both of my careers, I really haven't faced any discrimination. Does it happen? I'm sure it still does. Probably not as frequently as it did 10, 20 years ago. More of the discrimination there might be now, like in banking or in any other career, is probably more financial, getting equal pay for equal work. That is something that I wouldn't really know because salaries are really very much secretive in the banking industry. Well, probably most jobs. But I've always been recognized for the achievements I've made and always been promoted because of it. So I can't say that being a woman has held me back. But whether I felt extra pressure because I was a woman, I think I put more pressure on myself going back to that, wanting to be successful and doing the best I can.
More personal.
I think that's more of a personal thing for me. Okay. I can't say, though, that I'm not 100% happy that the CEO of KeyBank is a woman.
Right.
And she's been very successful there. She started from the ground up. And I find her to be, Beth Mooney is very inspirational as well as approachable.
Absolutely. And you and her both the same, when it comes to working your way really up there, it's something that you both have in common when it comes to banking. And like you said, she's in charge now, and she's really worked her way up there. And I think several other banks have women as managers, or they're up there as, pretty the head of the banking, scene.
They're in positions of power, so to speak. Yeah, in Warwick, there is really a great group of people, and I like them all. All right, you have Mary McClurg in Sterling. She's a great person, also part of Rotary. You have Sue in Greater Hudson, also in Rotary, great person. Right. I can't say I know the manager personally in Chase, but I think her name is Miley. And TD, there's a woman manager there too. I really don't know her at all. Right. And the manager of Walden Savings is a prior KeyBank person too. Her name's Laura.
Right.
So you have all these financial institutions in the town of Warwick, and each and every one of them has a woman branch manager.
Right.
Does that say something about the gender? Well, maybe we're more detail oriented. I don't know for a fact. Right. But I'm glad that we're all there.
It's definitely a great thing to see, And clearly being a woman hasn't prevented any of you from being able to perform and achieve, which is fantastic, and it's a great thing to see and to address. And then, on the note of women, I do want to talk about your daughters, because you have 2 twin girls, and they're graduating this next weekend from high school, and they're going to be out on their way going into the world, right? And definitely scary but exciting. But just coming from a place of having fear and anxiety and insecurity going into your field, how can you, what advice maybe
what words of wisdom can I give them?
Exactly.
Okay, so I firmly believe destiny happens by choice, not by chance. You need to love what you do and apply yourself 100%. Be a good person regardless of the challenges, and know that every challenge you face is part of who you are.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have confidence in them that they'll...
Yes,
I know they're great girls, yeah.
I do have confidence in them.
Right, awesome, fantastic. Is there something that maybe you wished you realized earlier that you hope that they kind of understand now, graduating?
Hardships are going to happen. Realize that you grow from them. Use that to be a better person in the future. And most importantly, it's important to enjoy each stage of life that you're in, because it helps you to be the person you will be in the future.
Definitely, definitely. And, you know, knowing you and seeing what you've accomplished, I'm sure that they will follow in your footsteps, and they're off to great things. And like I said, I do know them, and they're great girls. Well, thank you so much, Tina, for taking the time to speak to me today, and congratulations on all you've accomplished. Your story is incredible, and it was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Katie.
It's almost 10 o'clock, which means we are out of time, but tune in again next week to hear more incredible women share their stories. This has been Katie Krahulik, and you've been listening to Leading Ladies on WTBQ Radio.